Authorities say the victim was getting into her car at the Loughborough Schnucks around 2:30 yesterday afternoon.
You could see the man driving away in the car.
The kids were inside.
18-year-old Naomi Irion was last seen at a Walmart parking lot.
A possible abduction outside of a busy fast food restaurant. A pregnant woman shoved into a car in front of 2 young children.
She was last seen here at this Dollar Tree store around.
A woman they believe was kidnapped.
We are learning new details tonight about an investigation into a weekend kidnapping that happened in a grocery store parking lot.
In the case of a woman who went missing from a parking lot.
He's accused of kidnapping a woman from a grocery store parking lot.
Man who's snatching women from store parking lots.
Was abducted allegedly.
You can see this is a McDonald's parking lot.
Kidnapping from the Clinton Highway Walmart parking lot.
Were called to a violent disturbance in the car park.
A man is seen throwing a woman over his shoulder and driving away with her.
Is abducted from her Winter Park parking lot.
That he attacked a woman parked nearby.
After she was kidnapped in a Target parking lot.
Woman abducted from a grocery store parking lot and sexually assaulted.
Now these DCs we're going to take a look at don't really have a backstory with their victims, because these DCs stalked or acquired their victims from car parks. They didn't really know them, so that's why there's not much of a backstory, but these are freaks. Some of them are real freaks. Very dangerous, and dangerous to way more people in our community, because these DCs do not go after a particular type of victim. No, you're their type of victim, and the reason why that is because they choose their victims on not who they are, but on what they do or did. And that is that their type of victim is any wahine, any female out there that has ever used or uses or is going to use a car park. And that means a lot of you, as that is a very broad spectrum for these types of DCs to select a victim from. And my job in this episode with this lesson is to save one of you, is to have it so at least one of you, or even if you're not going to subscribe to the channel, just one of our viewers, probably a female viewer, that at some stage you'll remember this episode, and that will be enough to save your ass. We are upgrading what is already there. Common sense, sensibility, intuition, what you may call it, but let's just add to it, and that is called an upgrade. The first grabbing took place in a place called Cedar Parks, and our victim was this young lady. Her name is Jessica. Now, I'm not going to go on about how lovely and decent she and her whānau is, because it goes without saying. Each of our victims in relation to this episode, every single one of them was the good guy. Late at night on September the 7th, 2009, Jessica decided that her dog needed some biscuits and couldn't wait, but needed to get them. So she drove at night to the Cedar Parks Walmart. That is her there. Now, some of you will be thinking, well, hello, who's that guy? And I'll tell you who that guy is. That's the guy who kicks himself still to this day, blames himself for her murder, because if he would have just picked it up, she may still be alive. Because he's a store employee undercover that's meant to keep an eye on things. Anyways, more about my thoughts on that a little later. Let's get back to this DC. And here he is here. You see old DC here, he's already spotted our victim from the car park. So he's followed her in just to keep an eye on her, and then waits for her to go up and settle her purchase, and then walk on out without a care in the world. And hopefully, this DC's thinking, hopefully she doesn't snap back into it and become situationally aware of how much danger she is actually in. You see, that's what these DC grabbers, that's what they're banking on, is that the female, the wahine, that she's already parked in the wrong place, which is the right place for them, and that she won't snap out of being carefree, but into a state of awareness and readiness. That's what they're praying she won't do. Now, please pay attention. Please pay attention, because you're about to learn something that you shall never forget ever. Now, to show you, we're going to go back here. We're going to go back here to Jessica walking out. Now, here's the thing. A stalker that goes into predator mode will mimic the footsteps of their victim. And they start that process in the store. So by the time they get outside, by the time their victim is outside and walking, they can hang back far enough and get up quick enough by mimicking those footsteps. Now what DC does here, and that of which we do not see on camera, is DC taking out his knife and then sticking it up to her throat and then forcing her into a car, and then what we see is DC driving away. Now he's probably most likely told her that he just needs the car, he just needs a lift, and then he'll let her go. But of course, he's not going to do that at all. So what he does do is they take off, and somewhere he does brutally assault her, and then what he does is he strangles her, and then what he does is that he drives her back to the car park because he's got his truck parked there. So he drives her back, drops her off, and then scoots over to his truck and then bails. Now here's the thing, and I find it quite fascinating. It is macabre, but still fascinating. The damage, the kind of injury that a DC can befall upon a victim of theirs, and the brain. Now, what I mean by that, and it's just happened, but our friend Michael from that chapter, he's done an episode on a DC called... Now, if you haven't seen it, then this is somewhat of a small spoiler, but definitely not enough to ruin the episode at all. So indeed, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, and you're going to think, oh God, you're putting a plug in for Michael's channel? Jesus. Anyways, back to Porco, and what Michael was saying is that one night, old Porco, he snuck into his old house, crept up the stairs, and then brutally attacked his old man with, I think it was a hammer. Now, old Porco left him for dead and then bailed, took off. And what happened was, his old man didn't die. His old man actually lived. And then the next morning, and dig this, the next morning, his old man gets up and then casually goes around his business of what he would have done on the morning if he hadn't been attacked. Like going out and getting the paper, like having a wash, like prepping for breakfast. All these routine things done without his brain connecting to whatever part of the brain to say, hey, holy shit, you've just been attacked and you're majorly injured. Like he was so injured in his brain, and that brain damage was so severe that he didn't even pick that up in his conscious state. That is severe brain damage. That really is. So the brain moves the body, and let's say in a state of shock, and drives the body through, say, repetitive behavior, say something like a learnt behavior. That is like unreal. Now why I bring that up here is this, is that type of damage to the brain is what they believe was caused to Jessica by the DC. As there are eyewitness accounts, eyewitness reports that say that they saw Jessica the day that she was found in the car park, that early in that morning, they say they saw her get out of the car, walk around it, check it for something, and then get back into the car and then just stop. Now that is independent eyewitness accounts, and then they found, of which backs up the eyewitness accounts, is that when they did the autopsy on Jessica, the forensic pathologist said that she didn't actually die from the strangulation, she died from heat stroke. And that means that she was sitting in that car, suffering all that time for heat stroke, that this DC, this convicted piece of filth, This DC strangled our victim, and he did it so hard that it caused the same amount of brain injury, damage to the brain, like the force that he was using, as what Porco did to his old man. Because the pathologist agrees that the eyewitnesses are actually telling the truth. They did see her, that she is so damaged, that her brain is so damaged that she is in that state of shock, the same one that Porco's old man was in. It's fucking horrible, man. That's how much damage this DC did to this young lady, and that's why you hate him just that little bit more. It's like what happens after some car accidents. It's just fucking horrible. Anyways, like I said, it's macabre, but it is fascinating. Now, I'll put a quick plug in here for everyone to subscribe. Then please do now, because I'm gonna show you how dumb this clown actually is by how he got caught and what he says in his J for Genius plan and his story one of why it is that he's using Jessica's credit cards at a gas station on the night that he gets caught. And you have to hear the genius of this story that you'll understand how dumb this DC is. Now, moving forward with our upgrade, we are going to use this DC. Now, here's something about this DC. He is the most hated DC out of all the sicko, wacko, psychos. This DC is the most hated. And who hates him the most? Well, all the other sicko, psycho, wacko DCs. That's who. How did this DC become the most hated DC by all the low-life scum who commit sexual assaults? So how to get that title is that back in 2003, old genius here had made a plan to kidnap a wahine from a car park and take her away from her life and her whānau. Now, what this genius didn't know is that that wahine that he was going to grab is a member of this whānau, of this family. And if you do something to anyone in this whānau, you are screwed. And when I mean screwed, I mean really, really screwed if you do. And he did, and he is. Because this wahine, her name is Drew Katrina Sedin. You see, after he took her, after this DC took her, her whānau went to war against all of the swamp monsters. I think you US guys call them, from the politicians to the human rights advocates and everyone in between. Drew's whānau beat them all and had the president, the president of the United fucking States, sign into law Drew's Law. And what does Drew's Law do? Well, Drew's Law burns a hole in the darkness which hides sex offenders. Yeah, Drew's Law provides all of the US citizens with the National Sex Offenders Registry. There is no more hiding in the shadows for you scum. And that is why this DC is hated the most by all of those sick, twisted, weak, pathetic... Oh man, the list goes on. If you're a sub-I, you'll know what I mean. Anyways, back to it. So, on the 22nd of November 2003, that was a Saturday afternoon, quite a busy Saturday afternoon, Drew, who was 22 at the time, finished up work and went out shopping. And after shopping, she then went to her car in the car park to leave, and that's when this US level 3 sex offender grabbed her. And do you know what a level 3 sex offender is? Well, if you don't, a US level 3 sex offender is someone that is classed as an extremely high risk of reoffending. So it's not a matter of if, you know what I mean. Anyways, this DC, who was just out of prison, was hanging out in the mall by himself, just like he is here. And this is how he liked to pick them. He would go and find them in a mall and then stalk them on the way out of the mall, and if the opportunity arises, if the DC sees that her situational awareness is off, then it is DC victim on time. And that, well, that's what happened here. Now here's another piece of info, which is a bitch really, especially for her partner at the time, because when Drew was grabbed, she was on the phone with her boyfriend, and he says that her last words on the phone were, okay, okay, and then the call drops out. Now I know that there will be a lot of us that would think something's a problem, but that may be if two things weren't and were present. The first one is she didn't sound like she was in distress, that she spoke the words normally before it dropped. And when you do that, when you speak those words back, okay, okay, then it doesn't seem so bad. And the second thing is that this is back in 93, so phones dropping out, well, this could have happened a lot back then, because what's back then, like 1G or half a G or something? Oh, God knows. Anyway, I'm sure someone will tell me. So I know that there will still be a lot of us that would call back immediately, but I also think that most of us would do that for a whānau member or a family member, you know, would put more weight on it, more worry, so to speak, if indeed those spidey senses kicked in, you know, the seventh sense, the one we all have, the one we call intuition. And a woman's intuition is meant to be far stronger than a man's intuition. But my wahine, my DC sabai wahine, you have to remember that your intuition in these situations, in these circumstances, your intuition is only at its peak if you have your situational awareness turned on. So anyways, back to it. So this DC, he grabbed Drew and took her away and murdered her. So the cops had no idea what happened until they got a lead about a week later. And that lead is what you're watching here. The store CCTV footage 50 was watching, and look who they see walking on out. None other than D-fucking-C, a level 3 sex offender. So 50, they go and get DC and they hit him up. And DC caves straight away because, you know, pussies do. And then he went dark. As usual, DCs never think that far ahead. So this DC went dark and didn't tell them where she was. And it was a little while later, after the snow and ice had melted, that they were able to recover Drew and bring her back to her whānau. And what do you know? They found Drew in a place called Crookston, which just so happens same place where this DC lived with his ma. And this is how dumb our DC is. See, in his plan, the one that he was never going to get caught, while searching his vehicle, investigators found a knife covered in a bottle of cleaning solution, okay? A woman's shoe was also recovered, and this shoe, along with another knife found inside the car, had bloodstains on it, and they were later matched to the DNA profile of Drew Sedin. The knife also matched a sheath that was also recovered from Drew's car parking lot. Yep, his plan, written by a genius. Now, how did this all end up? Well, here's the beautiful thing that happened. If there can be any beautiful things that happen, was the one thing that this DC really didn't want to happen, and that was he was given the death penalty. But wait a minute, but there is no death penalty in North Dakota. So how did he get the death sentence? Well, that's because genius here, when he grabbed Drew, drove her over a state line, and that means that the feds get involved. Long live the feds. And those guys, the feds, they're like detectives on steroids. And they want to hang him high. So the feds, they got that death penalty for our DC, and this but isn't the greatest one of all, because the judge that gave him that death penalty rolled it back because some idiots screwed up. And though even if they hadn't screwed up, that it wouldn't have made a difference, but in justice, it has to be fair to all, even these DCs. Just like my country in Aotearoa, ours is called the Disclosure Act. Your name that you give to it is called a Brady violation in the US, whereof the Crown in New Zealand and the district attorneys in the US must give over all the informations. So both sides have all of the informations and not withhold any of it. And in this case, it looks like there may have been a deliberate hold, which is really fucking dumb. So from heroes to idiots, but we'll have to see what happens. Now, what this means is that this case, this death penalty, is still up in the air, and it's actually going in front of the courts. And I say that if you're one of the DC sub-I that is for the death penalty, then come along with me and the rest of them and watch that case. It should be a goodie. If not, if you're not for the death penalty or the DP, it might just be interesting in the arguments that are raised, as they're usually pretty cool arguments in getting life instead. It should be a good watch, especially as we'll get to say hey to Drew's whānau, and that's going to be cool, because they are awesome. And now that leads me to this part of this lesson within this upgrade. So what my role is in this lesson, and this is for everyone, but most importantly our wahine, and that is I'm going to teach you how to enhance yourself to be a better version of you by enhancing your senses, all of them. You want to see better, hear better, think faster. And by think, I mean feel. And by feel, I mean the sense of feeling, not touch, but the sense of feeling, sense of intuition. We at the channel call it the seventh sense. And to do that, all you have to do is a simple thought experience. Not experiment. I know what this does, and I will know what it will do to the sub-I out there. It will be an experience for each of us. And that thought experience is that the next time that you are going to go and use a car park, I want you to imagine that in the back seat you have a sleeping baby or like a well-behaved toddler. It does not have to be yours, but you are responsible for them. Now really imagine it. I want you to do that as many times as you can. Remember to do that over the next month. Do it with a girlfriend. Remind each other, just as long as you do it. And that is all you got to do, is just remember the next time you're going to a car park, you're going to think that there's a baby in the back seat and that you're responsible for it. Yeah, it's your baby. It's your baby. And what we are doing here is that we are hacking the system, the being, us, the human being. We hack into an instinct, and that instinct in females is called the natural maternal instinct. And that natural maternal instinct is to protect the young. Now, men have it too, but in a female it's more prevalent. Now, I know sometimes that can cause an argument, but it's not that men will not die for their kids, it's just that there are more women that would do that. And we know that just by doing some simple true crime maths, which shows us, just by the numbers, that there's heap more shithead family killers out there that are the male of our species than that of the female. And that's why it's important for all of us, every single one of us out there, protect the wahine of our people, because they protect our people's young. They protect our kids. So we should protect them, even if you don't like them, just as long as you protect them. All the good guys know what I mean. All the good guys do. Yep, that is all you gotta do. That's it. Now, back to the lesson, the baby and the instinct. So, what is that hack going to do? It's going to turn on your situational awareness. And by doing that, when that's switched on, your brain is going to release a neurochemical. And that neurochemical is going to heighten all of your senses. But what it's also going to do is going to turn on your seventh sense. And that, for those situations of where you are going to car parks or in car parks or places thereof, it's going to make you a soup. It's going to make you a fucking soup. And all you have to do to turn on that situational awareness, to turn on that soup power, is just remember this episode. And then my job is done. And then my job is done. Now, so in wrapping up this lesson on this episode for this upgrade for our DC sub-I, all you have to do is you have to remember, what do you have to remember again? Oh, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. Make sure the next time you go to a car park, next time you go to your car, with yourself or with somebody else, just remember this episode. Remember how to turn it on. And that does in fact bring us to the end of this episode. And I hope that my channel's wahine are never in the situation that these young wahine found themselves in these car parks. If that ever happened, I would want to be there with you guys, with a few of my boys. But alas, I probably won't be. So I am hoping that you'll remember your superpower. Now, please have a think about becoming a member of the project team and join us through the channel or over at Patreon. Get early access to the latest videos and at the same time help me out and the project. It would be appreciated, just as I appreciate all my guys that are team members now. God bless everyone. God bless and stay safe. And I'll see you all and hopefully some new guys in the next episode. Ka kite.